The silent departure. The council chamber was the heart of the galaxy. Inside that hall, alien leaders from hundreds of worlds gathered. The walls were covered with glowing banners, the air heavy with the sound of shifting claws, wings, and voices. Everyone waited for the humans to speak. But the humans did not speak. They stood in silence. 5 figures from Earth sat at the long table, their faces calm and unreadable. Their uniforms were simple, nothing compared to the glittering robes and shining armor of the alien delegates. Yet their silence was louder than all the noise in the chamber. No one dared break it. Finally, one alien delegate, a scaled creature with a golden crest, tried to laugh. "Perhaps the humans have nothing more to add," he said. His voice shook slightly, betraying his nerves, but the humans did not look at him. They did not look at anyone. Instead, they rose to their feet. Slowly, without a single word, they turned and began walking toward the great doors of the chamber. Their boots struck the polished floor. Tap, 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 each step echoing like a hammer inside the ears of everyone present. The silence grew heavier with every step they took. The delegates shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered to each other. Others watched in fear. The humans had never left a council meeting in silence before. Humans argued, they shouted, they fought for their place. But now, they said nothing. At the center of the chamber, the council high speaker, an ancient being with silver skin and eyes like molten glass, slammed his staff against the floor. "Humans," he called out, his voice deep and commanding. "You cannot simply walk away, the council requires an answer." But the humans kept walking, they did not turn. They did not reply. The doors opened, heavy and slow, and a shaft of light cut across the chamber floor. The 5 human figures stepped into it, their shadows stretching long behind them. For a moment, the entire hall was silent. Completely, utterly silent. Then the doors closed with a thunderous boom and the humans were gone. A cold shiver spread through the chamber. One delegate, a bird-like creature with sharp feathers, hissed nervously. "What does it mean? Why did they leave?" "Like that?" Another, with 6 glowing eyes, whispered. "It means they will not forgive us." The high speaker tried to calm them. "They are proud creatures. They believe their silence will frighten us, but we will remind them who rules this council." Yet even his words sounded hollow, because every being in that room knew the truth. Silence was not weakness, not from humans. Silence meant something else. Something worse. The memories came back to them. Stories whispered through the galaxy. The old wars when humans had been cornered and outnumbered. The battles where they had stood quietly, watching, waiting, and then struck without warning. Entire fleets had vanished in those wars. Worlds had burned. The silence of humans was always followed by fire. Now that same silence hung over the council. Whispers filled the chamber like restless ghosts. "They will come back. They are planning something. We should not have pushed them. We should not have betrayed them." Every delegate remembered what the council had done. They remembered how human colonies had been stripped of resources, how treaties had been twisted against Earth, how promises were broken and debts were left unpaid. Humans had endured it all, sitting in meetings, raising their voices, demanding justice. And now, without a word, they had walked away. The chamber that once felt so grand now felt like a prison. The banners, the glowing lights, the polished floor, none of it could hide the fear that settled deep inside the alien leaders, because they all knew what silence meant. The high speaker leaned heavily on his staff, his eyes narrowing. "They cannot act without approval," he said firmly, trying to convince himself as much as the others. "If they dare to move against us, the council will crush them." But no one answered. Not one delegate nodded in agreement. Their silence mirrored the humans. In their minds, they all saw the same image. Human ships, dark and sharp, rising from the black of space without warning. They remembered the stories of human soldiers who fought even when abandoned, who turned broken weapons into tools of victory, who never forgot an insult, no matter how many years passed. And now, those humans had walked out of the council in perfect silence. Somewhere deep inside, every delegate knew this was not the end of a meeting. This was the beginning of something far more dangerous. The silence was not absence. It was a warning. The weight of guilt. The council chamber felt emptier than ever before. Even though hundreds of delegates remained seated, the absence of the eye, humans pressed down on the hall like a heavy shadow. The air buzzed with nervous energy. No one wanted to be the first to speak, but silence was unbearable. At last, a delegate with glistening scales and a long tail hissed. They walked away. They left us without a word. That is dangerous. Humans are never silent without reason. The High Speaker raised his staff again, trying to keep order. Do not panic. They have stormed out before. It is only a performance, a trick to make us afraid. But the speaker's voice carried no strength. It trembled in a way no one had ever heard before. The truth was simple. The humans had never left like this. They had never left together without words, without anger, only silence. One by one, the delegates began to recall what they had done. Their minds replayed every betrayal. They remembered when Earth had asked for fair trade routes, but the Council blocked them and raised taxes until human colonies starved. They remembered when humans begged for protection from pirates, and the Council sent only broken promises. They remembered the insults made in open sessions, words like primitive, reckless, and unfit to lead. For years, humanity had spoken back, sometimes loud, sometimes desperate. But today they had chosen silence. A bird-like delegate flapped her wings nervously. They will not forgive us. You all know this. No, barked a hulking warlord with tusks, pounding the table. They are weak. They cannot stand against the Council. They rely on noise, on speeches, on emotion. Without words, they are nothing. But even as he shouted, his eyes darted to the great doors where the humans had disappeared. His words did not match the fear inside him. Another delegate leaned forward, his 6 eyes glowing dim. You are wrong. I fought them once, many cycles ago, on the frontier. Their silence was the worst weapon. They watched us, studied us. When the attack came, it was so fast, so exact, we never recovered. Do not call them weak. That silence is their strength. The hall fell quiet again. The weight of guilt pressed harder. Every race in that chamber had at some time taken something from humanity: land, wealth, respect. And every race knew humans never forgot. In private corners, whispers began. Should we apologize? Should we recall them? Perhaps. We can still undo this. But others shook their heads. It was already too late. The silence of humans was not something that could be bought back with apologies or promises. It was the silence of decision. The High Speaker struck his staff against the floor. The sound echoed, but it could not erase the dread. Enough. You speak as though humanity holds power over the Council. They do not. We are the ruling voice of the galaxy. If humans choose defiance, we will silence them. His words were bold, but they brought no comfort. Because deep inside, even the speaker knew the truth. Humanity had walked away not in defiance, but in judgment. That night, while the chamber emptied, the delegates returned to their quarters restless and afraid. Some drank heavily to forget. Others wrote secret letters back to their governments, warning them to strengthen defenses. A few, the wisest among them, sat staring at the stars outside their windows, wondering how much time was left before the silence broke. In one dark corner of the council city, an old archivist whispered to his apprentice, "Do you know the oldest human proverb?" The apprentice shook his head. The archivist leaned closer. His voice was soft, almost trembling. "They say, when humans stop talking, you have already lost." The words chilled the young alien to his core. Because even he could feel it now. The silence was not absence. It was a promise, and the promise was clear. Humanity would return. Rumors of the human fleet. The silence of the humans did not remain locked inside the council chamber. It spread like a storm through the galaxy. Whispers traveled on every trade ship, every station corridor, every shadowed corner of alien space. Wherever beings gathered, the question was the same. What did the humans plan? At first, the rumors were small. A merchant ship claimed it had passed near human space and seen strange lights moving in formation. A patrol reported strange signals, silent bursts of code that made no sense. The council dismissed these reports, calling them exaggerations. But then scouts began to vanish. One week, a patrol of 3 ships failed to return. The council explained it away. Engine failure, pirates, bad navigation. But then another patrol disappeared. Then another. Within a month, 8 expeditions sent near human space had gone dark. No distress calls, no wreckage, no clues. Just silence. The silence was worse than destruction. Destruction could be explained. Silence meant something deliberate. On the outer colonies, traders spoke in hushed voices. They told stories of shadows drifting through the stars, massive shapes, dark and quiet, moving like predators in deep space. A captain swore he had seen one of these shapes with his own eyes. It was not a natural shadow, he whispered. It blocked the stars. It moved against the light. And then it was gone. At first, the council tried to control the stories. They sent messages declaring the rumors false, promising that all was stable. But fear spread faster than their lies. People remembered what humans were capable of. And worse, people remembered why the humans might be angry. Inside the council, the debates grew louder, sharper, more desperate. "We must send a fleet," roared a tusked warlord, slamming his fists onto the table. "If humans prepare for war, we must show strength before they act." Another delegate hissed back. "Send a fleet? Into silence? Into shadows? That is suicide. Do you not see? They are already watching us. They are already prepared. Every ship we send will vanish." Others argued for negotiation, but no one knew how to reach the humans. Messages sent to Earth went unanswered. Ambassadors were turned away at the gates. Humanity had closed its borders, shut down its channels, locked itself in silence. And silence was more terrifying than war. One evening, the council received a report from a border world. A listening post had captured a faint signal near human space. It was only one word, repeated 3 times before the signal cut out. The word was, "Wait." No one knew what it meant, but everyone felt the weight of it. In the lower halls of the council, city, whispers grew darker. "The humans are building something," said one. "A fleet greater than any the galaxy has seen." "No," said another. "Not just a fleet. A weapon. Something that will end us all." Every rumor was worse than the last. Some said humans had discovered ancient technology hidden in the ruins of dead civilizations. Others claimed humans had allied with rogue species who hated the council. Some even whispered that humans were preparing to erase entire worlds in silence without ever being seen. The High Speaker tried to dismiss these fears. In a speech to the council, he declared, "Human silence is only theater. They are not as powerful as they want us to believe. We are the galaxy's rulers. We cannot be shaken by shadows." But even as he spoke, his eyes betrayed him. His hands trembled on his staff. And in the shadows of the chamber, many delegates looked away, unwilling to meet his gaze. Because already their fleets were pulling back from human borders. Already their colonies were building walls, reinforcing shields, preparing for a storm they could not see. And always, in their minds, the same fear repeated. The humans were not retreating. The humans were preparing. And when their silence finally broke, the galaxy would never be the same. The reckoning, it began quietly, the way all terrible things begin. On the council world of Varos, the stars disappeared one night. Not because the sun had set, not because of storms or clouds. The stars vanished because something vast had moved between the planet and the sky. At first, the people thought it was a shadow from a passing fleet. But there were no alarms, no messages, no declaration. The shadow came without sound. And then, one by one, the cities of Varos went dark. Power grids collapsed. Communication towers flickered and died. Orbiting satellites vanished from their paths, erased from the sky as though swallowed by an invisible hand. Within hours, the entire planet was silent. The Council received no distress calls. No escape ships broke through the blockade. Only silence when the report reached the Council chamber. The hall erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted over one another, claws scraping, wings beating, voices shaking. What happened? Where are the fleets? Why is there no record? The High Speaker slammed his staff, his voice trembling with fury. Silence! We will find the cause. This was sabotage. Pirates. Natural disaster. Do not assume. But even as he spoke, a messenger drone entered the chamber, carrying a single transmission recovered from the last minutes of Varos. The transmission lasted only 12 seconds. The image was shaky, a camera from a spaceport. In the distance, a massive shape drifted against the stars. It was black, sharp-edged, and silent. No signals, no insignia, no lights. Only a shadow moving, with terrible purpose. Before the feed cut out, a single voice was heard. A terrified officer whispered, "They're here." The chamber fell into stunned silence. Everyone knew who they were. No one dared say the word, but it burned in every mind. Humans. Panic spread like fire. Delegates screamed at each other, demanding answers, demanding action. Some insisted on immediate war. Burn Earth to ash before they strike again. Others begged for negotiation. Send emissaries, beg forgiveness. But no one had a clear plan, because the truth was unbearable. The humans had chosen their moment, and Varos was only the beginning. In the days that followed, more worlds began to report strange shadows at the edge of their systems. Ships drifted into darkness and never came back. Communication relays went silent. Patrols vanished without trace. Every event carried the same signature: no explosion, no fire, no enemy transmission. Only silence. The fear inside the Council grew heavier. Delegates stopped leaving their quarters alone. Guards doubled their numbers. Whole planets began to riot, terrified that the silence would reach them next. For the first time in centuries, the Council's authority began to crack. Their words no longer brought calm. Their promises no longer inspired loyalty. Every race, every world was gripped by the same truth. The humans had answered. And their answer was not with words, but with silence, sharp as a blade. In private meetings, the guilt finally boiled over. One elder delegate shouted, "We should have never betrayed them. We thought they were weak. We thought they were desperate. But they were patient, too patient. And now they will destroy us all." Another hissed, trembling, "They gave us warnings, but we did not listen. Every insult, every broken treaty, they carried it with them. They remembered everything." The High Speaker tried once more to restore order, but his voice cracked. For the first time in living memory, his staff could not command silence. Fear had broken the chamber. Then came the second message. A border station sent out a recording before. It too went silent. The feed showed nothing but empty stars. But a voice, calm, cold, and human, spoke through the static. "This is not war. This is justice." The feed ended. The station never spoke again. The Council could no longer deny it. The humans were striking. Not with speeches, not with declarations, but with silence and shadows. And no one knew where the next blow would fall. The reckoning had begun. The final answer. The Council city had never known fear like this. Its shining towers once stood as symbols of power, its skies filled with banners of unity. But now, the streets were empty. Markets closed early. Windows glowed with dim light as people whispered behind locked doors. The silence that began with the humans had reached the very heart of the galaxy. Inside the Council chamber, chaos reigned. Delegates screamed across the hall, their voices sharp with panic. "Send the fleets. Hide the capital. No, surrender now before it is too late." The High Speaker tried to rise, his staff shaking in his hands, but his voice was drowned out. Even here, the center of authority, no one listened anymore. Fear had replaced order. Then, the alarms began to sound. The chamber froze. Red light bathed the walls, and the voice of the defense system echoed across the city. Unidentified fleet entering orbit. Delegates rushed to the windows. And there they saw it. Dark shapes sliding across the stars. Hundreds, then thousands of them. Ships black as night, their outlines sharp and angular, moving in perfect silence. No banners, no insignia, no signals. Only the shadow of humanity stretched across the sky. The humans had returned. A hush fell over the chamber. For the first time, even the loudest voices had nothing to say. The sight alone crushed their words. The fleets of the Council scrambled to respond. Warships rose from the docks, their engines burning bright. Defense stations powered up, shields glowing across the planet. The speaker shouted, "Prepare all forces, they cannot face us in battle," but the truth was already clear. The human ships did not fire. They did not send warnings. They simply surrounded the planet in absolute silence, like predators circling prey. Every second that passed tightened the noose around the Council's heart. Finally, a single transmission broke the silence. The Council chamber's screens flickered, and the image of a human appeared. It was one of the 5 who had walked away. His face was calm, his eyes cold, his voice steady. "We gave you time," he said. "We gave you warnings, we gave you words. You answered with betrayal, with greed, with arrogance. Now you will answer for your deeds." No threats followed, no demands. The screen went dark. The chamber erupted again. Some shouted for surrender. Others demanded to fight, but their voices were nothing against the weight pressing down on them. Outside, the fleets of the Council hesitated. Their captains stared at the black wall of human ships, their hands frozen over their weapons. No one dared fire the first shot, because deep inside they all knew what would happen if they did. Minutes passed, then hours. The human fleet held its position, silent and still. The galaxy watched as the most powerful council in history sat, trapped beneath the shadow of Earth. The High Speaker finally collapsed into his chair, his silver eyes dim with defeat. "We thought we could break them," he whispered. "But it is we who are broken." That night the council surrendered, not through a grand declaration, not through ceremony, but through silence. No speeches were made. No applause followed. Each delegate signed the agreement with trembling hands, knowing humanity had taken its place in the galaxy, not with words, but with silence sharper than any blade. When it was over, the human fleet withdrew as silently as it had arrived. No celebration, no demands, no speeches of triumph, only the shadow of their power left behind. And in the years that followed, one truth became law across the stars. When humans are loud, they argue. When humans are angry, they fight. But when humans are silent, the galaxy trembles.